What was the name of the ship you were on?
It was called a USS Essex, ESSEX, CVA-9, which CVA is Carrier Vessel Attack. The reason it was called that is because of the airplanes that were on it. They were attack airplanes. And so, like I say, it was quite large. From the flight deck, which you'll see in the pictures in a little bit, from the flight deck to the water line, where the water was 60 feet. So if you had to abandon ship, you had to jump off the side of a ship and hit that water 60 feet below. And there was more of the ship below the water than there was above it, kind of like an iceberg as far as I go. But it's a big ship, and normally your tour of duty would be like a year and a half. My tour of duty was 3 years and 7 months on the same aircraft carrier. I just could not get transferred to anything else, which it worked out all right. Had a good time, enjoyed it. Think we did a lot of good for a lot of people.
Okay. Dennis?
Two things. One, I was born in Hawaii, and two, you know the thing that you showed us about all the people that signed that card?
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering before you leave, can I see if Dennis Pite's in there?
He wants to see the letter.
Yeah, see if
Oh, definitely. In fact, yes, it can be passed around now. I have no problem with it. It's just to show you that other countries do appreciate, some of, you might just go ahead and, I don't know that you'd all want to read it. It just basically says, we thank you for what you did for us, because Korea is a peninsula that sticks out kind of in the water. And what happened, the Chinese I really need that map.
There's one right there.
What happens here, this is China, right up in here, all of this right here. I've got to put on glasses, sorry about that, you guys. When you get older, you hearing aids, glasses, etc. This is Korea, right here. This is China up here. So what happened, the Chinese communists wanted to take over this peninsula. So they came right through here and started killing off the Koreans. So the Koreans started moving down, 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 and they got right back here. They had no place to go except into the sea. So they asked the United States of America to please send some defense forces to help them. And that's why we ended up over there. What we did then was push them back to what was called the 38th parallel. And had an agreement with them that they would not come back this way, the North Koreans, and the South Koreans would not go past there. At that time, they established a base right on the demilitarized zone, as they called it right there. And we still have, and have had continuously, service, Army, Marine personnel at that base right there to prevent them from ever doing what they did before, from ever coming through there. So even though the Korean conflict was agreed to, that it was over with, we still have had forces there for this full 60-some-odd years. And I don't know how long they will be there.
Okay, we've got some.
Oh, can you make this show? Let me get out of the way right here. So, oh yeah, okay. Get it set up there. Mrs. Jacobs. Again, what this is, and it's not really clear, those are all airplanes on the deck of this as we're leaving. And there's a second deck down below here. There's an elevator over here in this particular area where they bring the planes up and take them down. But that's just, all this is basically to give you some idea. There are 100 planes right there. 100 airplanes sitting on that deck right there. And we were actually headed out to Korea at the time these were taken, and that's all it is something to show you kind of a size. That's a smaller boat, one of the smaller boats. But at the time we were over there, there was probably over 100 ships, aircraft carriers, destroyers, all types of ships over there, repair ships, etc. So there was a big fleet over there at that time.
He's just showing pictures.
So what this is basically, as I said, the airplane wings fold up on the propeller driven. Those are bombs before he took off. In other words, they're mounted on both sides of the wings. There's rockets put on there, there's 20-millimeter ammunition, etc. But that's all it is to give you an idea of how they did that. And this guy right here stands on the very back of that aircraft carrier with paddles. And as the planes are coming in, his job is to make sure that they're stabilized, they're not having their wings dipped, they're not too low, they're not too high. And what he does is signals them to come in, and when he crosses those paddles, they land. If he waves them off, they don't. They have to go around again and come back and make another stab at it. And there's many times, because of the roughness of the ocean, they couldn't get synchronized because that ship was going up and down. And they'd make 2 or 3 passes. So sometimes they ran out of fuel, because they only put enough fuel on them for them to go do their run and come back and have a couple of passes around that ship. So consequently, if that happened, they actually ditched the airplane in the ocean. Actually had to set it down in the ocean, get out of the thing, and there's a helicopter that would go pick them up. These are some of the wrecks. That one's up on its nose. I think this one was burning back here. You can't really see it that well, but it's just an idea of some of the things that went on the ship. Yes?
We had a relative that gave us that they let him have a 22mm bullet, and we still have it this day.
Well, the 20 millimeters were about that big. And what it was on the guns on the ship, they had what they called 3-inch 50s, which meant 3 inches this way and 50 inches long. Those particular ones and the 20 millimeters were used against oncoming aircraft. Any enemy aircraft that come in met those. Then we had what you called a 5-inch 38, which that big around and 38 inches long. 2 of those mounts were on the front of the ship to keep a plane from coming in and shooting you there or bombing you. The other 2 were on the back end of the ship to keep the planes from coming in and dropping a bomb and blowing your propellers off. Because if they were able to do that, which did happen at times, not on us, but on others, you couldn't navigate. You were a sitting duck there, and then they would just blow you all to pieces. So the guns were positioned a certain way. You have I'm sorry. Where are we?
Guns.
Hi. If I put okay. These are the 3-inch 50s I was talking about. Those are manned by military personnel. The 20 millimeters were manned by military personnel. The 5 inches were what they called a forward 63 radar system. It's strictly a radar system, and they could lock on a plane at 30 miles away. So what those big guns were used because you needed to get the power to get that one projectile for those planes that were coming in. So they used the radar on that. That's the jets that we had. They were very small jets, but they were very effective. So that's the actual jet. That is the propeller-driven plane again, just the size of them. And again, like I said, there were a total of 100 planes on that ship. What, young man, what was it?
Was it loud?
Was it loud? Yes, I have hearing aids in there. And the reason I have those hearing aids in there is because they did have ear protection, such as they do today in mining and wherever there's equipment. But the hearing aids, they weren't adequate to keep that sound suppressed from hurting your eardrums. So the Navy actually, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I went down to the Veterans Administration and they issued me hearing aids because I was having a terrible time. And the hardest part for me is children. I have a heck of a time hearing the total deal on there. So I have them there, but yes, that was loud. And then the jets, they scream. I mean, when they take off. Here, you were asking about some of the things they do. There's a band playing, there's church service going. That's church service also. This is where some guys are, they brought some musical type groups aboard, and they would do shows for us, periodically. So that was there. There's some of the boxing going on. There's some of the dancers they brought aboard. So there was, Now this again is the kitchen. That's the size of the egg pan I was talking about that they put together. They had cakes, they had all kinds of good stuff. They had a lot of cooks aboard. And they worked constantly. Oops, what we got here? Oh, this one. They're packing the supplies that we brought aboard. What you do, you go out on your ship and you shoot a small line across to the existing ship, which is, golly, from here half a block away. They then pull the larger ropes across on pulleys and everything like that. So there's a carrier and there's a ship and the fuel hoses, you have to pull all that, and you're doing that at sea while you're sitting there kind of bouncing along on there. But that's the way everything that was brought aboard, your food, your fuel, anything. If somebody transferred off of the ship due to sickness or anything, they ran a chair between the ships. And they would actually strap the person in the chair or on the gurney and ship them over to the other ship, and then the helicopter would take them off as far as that goes. So, again, these are the 3-inch 50 guns. They're quite large guns. They would shoot a good distance, and they were very effective in knocking down airplanes. Oh, boy. I'm in there somewhere.
No,
I think.
the other side,
Is it this one?
the little check mark. No, this is.
That's the 63 radar system. I said we shoot a line across. You can't really see it here, and it's too bad, but this guy right here is holding a gun that he shoots that line across. TA?
What?
Okay, thank you. He shoots that across, and this is a coil of the real small nylon line, and he's standing there holding that. And this guy shoots that thing across, and that line goes across, and then you do the pulling of the different deals. So, where is it?
You want to see my dad when he was a really young gentleman?
Right.
This one.
Right here.
Oh,
Holy cow.
I
That's-
can't. Oh my
that,
God.
what happened, I said we stayed in the ship's armory, is where we actually, 3 of us lived. Well, another reason we were there, they had abandoned ship weapons in case something happened that we had to abandon, then you could take a rifle or a pistol with you to defend yourself. I was training these guys on how to clean, you can't really see it, but there's a rifle and a pistol on the deck right there. And I was training them on how to clean those, to keep them ready for abandoned ship if it was necessary. What do we got here, Jenny? Oh, some more of them packing the supplies. Here's the nets that brought it across. These are all bombs. Every one of those white deals standing up there is a bomb. All of these are bombs. In other words, several times a month, we brought that many and many, many more aboard ship for the plants. Here's the one that can't get the whole thing in it, but what happens is the airplane starts out here and he's coming on around and he's coming around. He's trying to line up for the back of this, the center of it. The guy with the paddles I was talking about standing right here. So what he does, he keeps coming and coming until, is there another one on the cables?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should go.
Next page.
This big?
Yes.
Okay,
Right,
and here's,
stop it right there.
yeah, that right there. Here's where he's actually coming in, he's supposed to hit these marks right here. And on here, which right across there, are cables. And he has a hook on the back of his airplane, and he has to get out and get that hook to hook that cable to prevent him from going on off that ship, because they have to land pretty fast. In other words, to stay up with the ship and do it. So consequently, on the landing, the comment that they made, it's like trying to hit a postage stamp in the middle of the ocean. It's pretty rough on them, because that ship is not only kind of listing, it's up and down. And they've got to be sure they don't run into the back end of that ship. Some of them have. Some of them have ran into the conning towers, it's called right here. That's basically it. And that's what they have to look at when they're coming in to land, catch a cable. I think that's all those are.
Hey, what do we say to Mr. Jacobs?
Hey.